J-Mac, looking back over the free agent period so far, what has been your favorite move?
I love a wide receiver position because I never could cover those guys. Devontae Adams going to the L.A. Rams. I just think about Matthew Stafford throwing him the ball with Sean McVay dialing it up, hearing how he recruited Adams to come there. You just absolutely love this pairing with these guys.
Neek, what has been the biggest head scratcher to you so far?
Well, that Kirk Cousins is still a Falcon. I guess we still have some time, but it'd be shocking to me that they don't use Kirk Cousins to get some more draft capital and then use that to make this team a little better in the coming season.
And then, Graziano, how about the next move you want to see? What hasn't happened yet that you would be forecasting?
Cowboys still need a receiver. How about Stefon Diggs to Dallas? I'm personally a big fan. I don't know if J-Mac is of brothers playing on the same team. I think that's a lot of fun. Dallas needs a good number 2 behind CeeDee Lamb, and I think at this point in his career, Stefon Diggs would be an excellent addition to the Dallas Cowboys.
Graz, I always knew I liked you. That just is the perfect pairing. You get brothers on the same team, especially these guys on opposite sides of the ball, is going to raise everybody's level of competition. I made Dev into the player he was in New England.
There you go. Just to ask you.
And, he always says that.
And fair enough. Stefon, and look, there's a lot of things about that move that would be good. They talked about going after Cooper Kupp. I don't know how seriously
they never got real serious about
That's what I mean. Yeah. They wanted the world to think they were going after Cooper Kupp, but they never spend the money that it would take to sign Cooper Kupp. And maybe, I don't know how expensive Stefon Diggs is, but they don't go after free agents that cost any real money.
No, they don't. If their deal is right, I think they'll look into that. I mean, they'll kick over every rock to find a number 2 wide receiver. But yeah, there's a line item on their budget with a number on it, and I'm sure they're pretty disciplined about not going over it.
Yeah, they've certainly shown that discipline in the last few years. J-Mac, I'm looking at this piece of paper that they gave me with the different takes that people have.
Yeah.
And it says on here that the move you want to see is the Steelers trading for Brock Purdy. And I just assume something's wrong with this piece of paper.
Hear me out, Greeny. Me and Evan Cohen were talking last week. All right, the situation at hand right now, they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Say Minnesota comes calling, Aaron Rodgers decides to go to Minnesota. Russell Wilson has been on a visit to the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns. For whatever reason, the Browns go in and they sign Russell Wilson to a contract. Now, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've already traded for DK Metcalf and gave him a big contract. You need to have somebody to throw the ball to him. We've talked about the 49ers figuring out whether this is a rebuild or they're still going for it. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, why not think about, hey, calling up the 49ers and John Lynch and saying, I don't know where you guys are at right now. If you think you got a chance, that Brock Purdy guy, you're unsure. Do you want to pay him? Is he the same guy? Give us a shot at him. We'll take him. We'll let him be able to distribute to all the weapons we have here in Pittsburgh.
If the 49ers aren't going to pay Brock Purdy, you think the Steelers are going to pay Brock Purdy? I mean, the 49ers give out money a lot more freely than Pittsburgh does. I mean, it's a fascinating idea. Like, the logic is sound. I just think underneath it, the Niners, I believe, intend to sign Brock Purdy and don't want to trade him. But it's a fun thing to think about.
And then one of the underlying ones, of course, in that is Aaron Rodgers making up his mind on what he's going to do. Dominique, what's the move you want to see coming up next?
I mean, you see it right there. Do something, Aaron Rodgers. Like, I feel like we've been talking about Aaron Rodgers going to every possible team, and I just want him to make a decision at some point, even if that decision is to retire. So I'm looking forward to Aaron Rodgers making a choice so then we can have something new to talk about as it pertains to Aaron Rodgers.
And the only explanation that I have for why this is taking the time that it is taking is that he is continuing to hold out hope for a different situation, and Minnesota feels like the one that makes sense.
I think that's accurate. Now, the extent to which they end up interested is still kind of an unknown, but yeah, I think as long as there's any percent chance at all that that's out there, I think he prefers that situation to the Steelers or the Giants. I got to believe we'll know soon.
I mean, look, Minnesota's the place every quarterback would like to go.
And I guess what I start to wonder from a Minnesota perspective, what are they waiting on? If Aaron Rodgers is somebody they're interested in, he's there, go get him. If it's another backup quarterback that they want, it's not like there's going to be new players on the market.
Signing Aaron Rodgers would represent a dramatic departure from Minnesota's plan. They'd have to make other budget decisions, so there's things that go along with it.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on all of that. And the tournament challenge, by the way, people are commenting on what's going on behind us. Yeah. That's just what New York looks like today.
Yeah, it's not a great day.
It's just very foggy. Oh, yeah. So did you want to see that, Cindy, a little up close? Yeah, there we go. You got your sheet of integrity. Mine is laminated because Pineapple Jack doesn't realize how this works. Anyway, we are back. We are I can't use this. We are live. We are above the Heineken River deck at Pier 17. It's foggy as all get out outside. And while you were sleeping, huge news happened from the NFL. The Bengals have a great duo of wide receivers. Well, last night, they received it with new 4-year contract extensions. Jamar Chase, $161 million, 112 of it guaranteed. T. Higgins, $115 million, the first 2 years guaranteed. Chase becomes the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, which is something that Myles Garrett was for now, I guess, 2 weeks. So this is an enormous amount of money for 2 wide receivers, but it's probably worth it. Because look at the production that you are getting from these guys. Chase, if you wanted to make an argument, he's the best in the whole league. You would get no fight out of me. Higgins, while he's been beat up a little bit at times during his career, still averages nearly 1,000 yards per season, and that's with Chase on the other side of the field. So, Dan, what happened? Look, I went to sleep last night. I wake up this morning. What happened here?
This was in the works end of last week, and there was some news on it on Friday afternoon, so it doesn't come as a total shock. But the Bengals told us they were going to do this. They have been saying throughout the offseason, look, we're going to get these guys signed. Our cap is in a good situation. Joe Burrow was very clear this is what he wanted, and you know, he's an important person in that organization. So they have these elite talents at wide receiver. They give them the commensurate deals. Duke Tobin, their director of pro personnel, said at the Combine that Jamar Chase was going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and right now he is. We'll see how long that lasts. But, yeah, now the next thing is Trey Hendrickson, who's been out there looking for a trade and a new contract from a new team. But don't be surprised if they end up with a deal for him, too.
I look at this from a defensive perspective, as I look at it, secondaries all across the league are nervous. We got to go out there and line up against both of these guys. But also the Cincinnati Bengals secondary is nervous because now there is no help on the way. And I look at this for the new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, and all those defensive coaches. Now you're going to have to put a scheme together week in and week out without having probably the same talent pool as some of these other teams in the league. I love the fact that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have gotten paid. They absolutely deserve it. They've been 2 of the best players at the position. But from a roster building standpoint, if you're the Bengals, have you gotten a step closer to winning a Super Bowl with getting both of these guys deal done? Do you have enough to continue to build this roster and improve on a season last year that didn't warrant a playoff appearance?
So we're really having 2 separate conversations. We're having the conversation about them doing the deals, and then we're having the conversation about is their defense even remotely good enough for them to use it to challenge it? How about it, Neek? I mean, I've got 2, secondary players here today. Give me a sense, like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's as good as it gets in the NFL, right? And wrapping them up is the right thing to do regardless of the price tag, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love it as a strategy. I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to fill all of our holes when honestly, when we look at some of the best teams, they're just so great at one individual thing that it distorts the defense or distorts the offense that they have to go up against. And this receiver duo with this quarterback is that type of good. And I also like the fact that they're following what Joe Burrow wants. I think a lot of teams, a lot of coaches and front offices are looking for their players to take ownership of the team. They know now this is what you wanted. They're going to do everything they can to make this a success. And I think if you are going to gamble and roll the dice with talent on one side of the ball or the other, it's certainly going to be defense than it would be offense. So I like what they're doing given how they're built in this situation. I don't think it makes them a favorite necessarily, but you got Joe Burrow, you're going to be a competitor.
If you could be exceptional somewhere, then it's a good idea to do it. If they had 2 stud edge rushers and they had to pay both of them and then figure it out on offense, then that's probably the way they'd go. But look, there's a model here. The Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl. They're paying their quarterback near the top of the market. They're paying 2 wide receivers over $25 million a year. Their defense was excellent this year because they have drafted well and they've gotten high-level production out of young players on the defensive side of the ball. That's what the Bengals have to do now in order to cash this in.
And that's what they've been trying to do. It just hasn't worked out. But to you guys' point, you have 2 superstar players. You wanted to keep those guys there. You tried to build around it. There's going to be question marks. But give the Bengals credit. We've criticized them for years for not paying the talent that they have in-house. They did that with these deals.
Yes, so let's start with that. That's awesome. And I should apologize. Okay, I'm willing to apologize. I said on Friday it was starting to feel like same old Bengals with what was going on in Cincinnati. And obviously, I was wrong. I thought that they were not going to bring back. I thought that things might go sideways with Chase. I certainly didn't think they were going to bring back T. Higgins. No. And I thought that they were, for lack of a better word, purposely over-asking on the Hendrickson deal. I feel like that was just sort of the vibe that was out there so that they wouldn't wind up having to trade him and force him to come in on their own terms. Clearly, this suggests that this is a new day in Cincinnati. This is not the way they used to do business.
No, it's not. And since Joe Burrow was drafted, they have been a more active team in free agency. They have invested more in the day-to-day operations of the franchise. They've changed the way they've operated, and this is just more of the same, because they understand what they have is special. Joe Burrow is a special player. These are special receivers. This is a team that's had 2 down years in which they went 9-8. Like, those are their bad years, where they played no defense at all last year. And they still, if the Chiefs had put their starters on the field in the last game, Bengals might make the playoffs. So they know that if their defense is just middle of the pack next year, they have a chance to be one of the best teams in the league.
I went back and looked at the